Welcome back to Terror Takeover, your one stop shop for all things creepy, disgusting, and horrifying. I'm your host, Crow, and I'm here with my co hosts, Zoe and Char.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yay! I'm excited to do this episode, guys. I don't know
We
why,
are
but
so
I didn't
excited.
realize how much this meant to me until we started looking into it. Well, anyway, let's talk about our week a little bit. How was y'all's week? What'd y'all do this week?
I had a pretty good week. It was pretty busy. Just lots of little adulting stuff for the most part. Having to
Right.
work and I've been getting into my little workout grind and I've been loving it. I'm doing
Love
like these
that.
Peloton classes, so
Oh my
it's
god. Wait,
nice.
do you do it like in a gym?
No, I do it at home. I don't do the bike stuff yet because I'm like, girl, I really cannot do it with an
Oh.
exercise bike at all. But they have other classes too, like strength classes and yoga and stuff.
Oh, I thought
So it's
Peloton
been
was
nice.
like the bike, like the stationary bike thing. Maybe I'm
Yeah, that's like where they started, but they grew into like an app with all this other stuff that you can do. So
Oh, wow. Because I was about to say,
yes.
damn, that's like some hard from what I hear. That is so crazy hard. The like the workout bike stuff.
It's not hard, but it's just you're gonna be super sweaty and exhausted after you do it, and it's just like
Oh my
intense. It's
God.
all legs, all core.
I bet.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, but I've been feeling really good and like upbeat, and like I'm really out here just killing it. So it's
Well,
been a
that's
good week.
good. Yeah, definitely
Nice.
like changing the way you like kind of being a little bit more serious about your fitness and shit always makes you feel like all around better. I would say like probably
hmm
more so emotionally even than physically. Like it has such a huge impact on
Yeah.
your mental health and that's exactly why I need to actually start.
Yes, yes. Oh, also, I went to the doctor, and that was like not good, but
Oh
What?
god. Sure.
no.
You
Is
can
this confidential?
No, I'm making it sound so worse. It's like I went to the dentist and they were like, "Oh yeah, you got a bunch of cavities," and I'm like, "Oh
I'm so
Oh,
okay,
scared. I'm so scared literally cuz I
cool."
know I have them. I told you this. I know I
Oh
have them because
man,
my teeth hurt sometimes and I'm like, "Oh god."
that's those cracks.
Please.
So,
I just have to do it, but fuck.
my week personally has been really, really great. I've been eating a lot healthier. Like, I've been telling Crow about it, and it's just so
Oh.
crazy. And I haven't had caffeine in like a week.
oh
Oh.
It's
wow,
so crazy, like, how good I feel. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel very nourished and I just feel good. And I don't really need caffeine for energy because I'm just like treating my body so, so well.
Right.
nice.
Kudos to Shar because I have not even thought about hitting up the gym yet.
We can do it together if you want. Come to my apartment and we'll like make some shake. Did you like decide to replace caffeine with something else? Is there like a more
Um,
healthy alternative or not really?
I've honestly been supplementing it for just like protein shakes.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Protein shakes are
Nice.
so good. I mean, honestly, just having calories in your body gives you like energy. It's so underrated, but like
Yeah,
that's
especially
crazy.
protein.
Eating food, like life hack, eating food converts calories into energy for your body.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that and like I'm happy that you guys have been making like positive changes in your lives and I can tell that you just seem like happier and more resilient overall and I think that that's great. My week has been okay. It's been I don't know. I kind of just had a lazy week, but it's been nice because I've been being a little bit more social and that was always something that I had a little bit of trouble with was like reaching out and talking to people and stuff and I feel that I've been a little bit better about that lately. But also I started reading this book that I actually got at Starbucks. But
Oh.
it was like the Starbucks, well, it's not officially Starbucks, but it was like the Barnes and Noble cafe that proudly serves Starbucks. And they had a book that was like, if you buy a drink, you get the book for like $5, and it was normally
Oh,
17. So of
wow.
course I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get it. And it was called the Saturday Night Ghost Club, and it's really, really good. It's so cute. It's about this guy, and he is talking like he grew up as a kid in the 80s. Of course, it's fictional, but he's talking about the experiences that he had as a child in the 80s and like him and his friends had this little ghost club where they would visit haunted places and like have seances and talk to ghosts and stuff like that. And it's really cute. It's like right up my alley and I definitely highly recommend it to people who are like into Stranger Things. It really has big Stranger Things vibes as far as the characters, as far as the subject material. It's a really good book and really easy to read and also not super long too. So if you have trouble committing to a long book, like this might be perfect for you.
Cool.
And I got it for $5, so I'm not mad at it.
Oh, nice. Whenever you mentioned that book does seem like a wild ride. I do have like lots of problems committing to reading books. So
I
when
hear
somebody
you.
tells me it's a really good book, but it's very short and it's like that's kind of like up my alley, and I actually
Yeah.
started rewatching Stranger
Oh
Things
my
again.
goodness.
And it's so good.
Yeah, it is really, really good. Whenever I finish this book, like, you can totally borrow it. I think that you'll like it too because it's got like everything you like. I mean, it's got like the 80s stuff, it's got ghosts and whatnot.
Nice.
It's not like super long. And the language is like, this is what I like in a book. I like when the language is a little challenging, like, they don't just use elementary vocabulary, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it is easy to understand. It's not one of those books where you have to keep rereading like a paragraph over and over to understand what it's trying to say. Like it's an easy read, but it still feels grown up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
This week, I am so, so excited to announce that we are going to be talking about found footage horror films.
So
Woohoo! I'm
exciting.
Yay.
excited, and I didn't realize how excited I was actually until I started rewatching those movies this week. And I was like, these are some of like my favorite movies. Like these are some of the movies that I enjoyed the most as like a teenager and even as an adult. Although I will say it seems like maybe found footage movies aren't as popular as they were like in the earlier 2000s. Basically, if you don't know what a found footage movie is, according to foundfootagecritic.com, found footage films are feature length movies, shorts, or web series designed to have the look and feel of actual filmed events that were lost and subsequently discovered and made available to the viewer. So there are lots of movies that fit this genre, and like I said, it was more so in the earlier 2000s, kind of like whenever we were in junior high and high school. For whatever reason, this genre just totally exploded, and what a time to be alive, might I add. So, some popular styles of found footage films include, and this is all from foundfootagecritic.com as well, the first person perspective, which is the found footage film is actually filmed by the main character. There is the mockumentary style, aka pseudo documentary style, which is in the form of interviews and investigative reporting, basically. So that'd be something like Blair Witch Project. News footage style. So that would be like seen as footage from a professional news crew, basically. And then surveillance footage style, in which the footage comes from a stationary security type of camera, which passively films the event. And oftentimes in the surveillance footage style, found footage, it's usually more than one. And I actually think that's like a really cool aspect of the found footage is the surveillance footage styles.
Yeah.
But, and this is something that I'd like to discuss with you guys, there are many benefits and challenges, excuse me, associated with the found footage style. So challenges, obviously, that would be how was the footage recovered? So that's something that me and Char mentioned a little bit is like, it seems like in a lot of these films, even some like pretty massive destruction has occurred. And so how is the footage even still intact at all? So if you think about movies like Cloverfield, for example,
Yeah, I just finished that
it's
one.
kind of like, stuff is just kind of going to shit. So why how was this video camera, recovered? So that's one thing. Another thing that I think about is like, why would the cameraman continue filming? And this is something that I
Right.
always think
Yeah.
about. Like, right? Do you ever watch like one of these movies? And this is also like in Cloverfield. Sometimes it's like, just put the camera down and just fucking run, dude. Like at this
Right.
point, and cameras, like, especially if it's like a nice camcorder, like those bitches are heavy. So you're like trying to run around with like essentially this like human baby weighted thing in your arms when it would just be so much easier to just have both arms like available, especially if you're like running for your life or trying to get away from something or navigate through, danger and shit like that.
Yeah, I think those are like the biggest limitations of found footage movies is trying to make the story
Absolutely.
make sense, especially when it comes to like why do you have the camera? Why are you still filming? And how did anybody find this? If you could answer that, that's
Right.
good. But if not,
Make
then
it make sense.
Right.
it's just weird. Although I will say if something like crazy was popping off now, today, I would definitely have my camera on the entire time.
Shit, I
But
know, I know. I hate it because that scene, I didn't even see it yet, but that scene in the new Texas Chainsaw where they all like pull out their phones and start recording him. I'm like,
Yes. I
shit.
just watched
me,
that one
me.
not too long ago.
Yeah. What'd you think of it? I heard mixed things about it.
Um n- um so it's very modernized,
Right,
obviously.
right.
I mean, with everyone pulling their phones out, and I think I'm still trying, and we've talked about this with previous like episodes. I think I'm still trying to get up to date with the times, and I'm trying to become acclimated to technology is. 2023.
Right. She a
And
country girl.
I just, I'm a country girl, but I feel like if I can add, like, found footage movies are definitely like, they're a very wild ride. I mean, there's like
Yeah,
really something captivating about these films. I mean, maybe it's like the raw and realistic feeling, or perhaps
absolutely.
it's like the sense of like voyeurism, like
Right.
we're watching something we should not be watching,
Yeah,
like just
Yeah.
exactly.
blurring lines between reality and fiction. And
Absolutely.
I feel like when it comes to the horror genre, it kind of creates like an immersive feeling from like traditional horror movies, and I feel like, in my opinion, they struggle to match found footage movies, but
I
that's just
agree.
my opinion.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Um, I think that it's just funny because it's like always with the like, why are they like filming this thing? It's always like that awkward dialogue of like, people have to know what happened to us tonight. Like, that's always a line in found
Right.
footage movies. They're always
Always.
like, oh, people have to know, they have to see. And it's like,
Who?
why do they, first of all, why? Okay, yes.
it's it's like we're peeking into someone else's nightmare.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's so
But
I
it's
crazy.
mean,
also like it's also what's funny about it is it's like it's kind of like these characters are already accepting like, oh, we're definitely gonna die, but at least we have to get this video. It's like, no, I
Right.
mean,
yeah.
the
Get the good
last
angles.
right, the last thing on your mind would be like, oh, let me just like make a legacy for myself. It would be like, we
Oh
have to survive
man.
at all fucking costs. So put this camera
Mhm.
down right now, you know? So I think
So
that makes it a little bit
crazy.
weird.
Yeah.
But then something else that I noticed about it too is like there's really awkward like exposition. So there's usually these random like backstory dumps. Like characters will just like give their life story on camera just randomly, just so that way it's like, oh, okay, well, we have to know a little bit about this character, but it's a found footage film.
Right.
So how do we
Right.
do that? And they're just like, yeah, when mom left and did this happened and whatever. It's like
This
always
is
so
why mom
fucking
left.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's always like just some random backstory dump. And it's like, that okay,
Yeah, or
well,
like
sure.
clips, like in
Yes,
Cloverfield, where they had like the
yes.
random clips from way back before, because the
Absolutely,
main character had
yes.
recorded over the main tape. It's like, yeah, this is cool, and I guess now we know why Beth is such a big deal. But also, like, who does this? Like, why would you
Yeah.
just have this?
Well,
But
and somebody on one of those webs, I think it might have been Found Footage Critic as well, but they mentioned like this is not how like I mean, not everything has to be 100% realistic, but if you were recording over another tape, that is not how that would work. Like it wouldn't just go back and forth between the two. It would
right,
just record, I think it would like record over and then whatever didn't get recorded over would just continue as normal. So it might be like the last 10 minutes of the clip might still be there or whatever, if
yeah,
that makes any sense. It's hard to
no, it
describe,
does. It
but
makes a lot more sense than like this Swiss cheese mix up,
just
or not Swiss
random.
cheese, but just like a
Yeah,
mix.
I know what you mean. Yeah, for sure. And then another like challenge that usually people notice about them is unresolved endings. So it's usually like this is something that okay, I've honestly learned to like kind of appreciate it a little bit because it's got its charm, even though it's slightly cringy. But it's always like a dramatic jump scare, and then it just like goes into like either a cool edgy music or straight just like silence, and of course it's
Right.
like the credits immediately after. But I don't even think this is a spoiler because this was literally in the trailers for this movie. But if you think of like quarantine, like her just being dragged off, she's like looking at the camera and she just gets dragged
Oh,
off. It's like, okay. And then, you think of Paranormal Activity where Katie just like
right.
rushes the camera. It's like, it's always got to be a dramatic jump scare at the end. And that's
Yes.
like the only way to end it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess that's some. Yeah, it's kind of like cheap to have that. But I guess that kind of like speaks to found footage overall. A lot of the movies, especially the bad ones, are just a lot of jump scares and like sound scares and oh my god, what is that? And someone
Right.
screaming.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
it's such a small niche, very tiny space that like there's only so much they can do. But yeah, they all tend to kind of end one to two ways for the most part.
For sure, for sure. But then, of course, as with any challenges, there's going to be benefits as well. And actually, these are a lot of things I never considered. There are huge benefits to making found footage films, especially if you're like a production company, because there is potential for a very, very low budget overhead as far as like being able to make these films because you don't need a really necessarily well done like setting. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. B, it doesn't have to be high quality as far as just like the camera quality because most of the time lo-fi is even preferred because it looks a little bit more realistic. It looks a little bit more home video.
Mhm.
You don't really necessarily need high profile actors and actresses. And in fact, in most found footage films, it's just kind of like these indie actors and actresses that you've never seen before. And
Yeah,
I would even go so far as to say that I think that's really beneficial because it's kind of like, oh, here's a stranger, it's not an actress that we've already associated with a different movie. And it kind of gives it a little bit more of a sense of familiarity by being strangers, if that makes any sense. Also, you can usually make them with a pretty small cast. Like, you don't need a huge group of people. If you think
for
about
sure.
Paranormal Activity, the first movie was like, for the most part, it was just Micah and Katie. They had the priest guy, and then I'm trying to think. They did have at some points, but I have trouble remembering what was in the first movie and what was in the second. But they did have the sister and the brother-in-law at some point. But I think for the most part, the first movie was just three people, like the entire movie, and it was extremely successful. Paranormal Activity actually, believe it or not, this is kind of crazy and it blew my mind. Had a budget of $15,000.
Yeah,
Cool.
dude.
$15,000. We could
Nothing.
literally do that. Like, we could put together $15,000 right now between the three of
Right.
us. That's crazy. And Blair Witch Project had a budget of 60K.
60,000.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Dude.
So
And they
low.
had no script. None.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't
they
know
No
improved
that.
all of
script.
Blair Witch, which is another reason why it was so good.
Cool.
And I
I
think they
didn't
said
know
that
that.
the like staff were actually like fucking with the people that were actually camping in the woods because they
Yes.
really did camp out there. Very cool.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I didn't know that. That's so cool. I'm happy you guys told me that.
That's probably why it
How
did so
cool.
well. It was all very
Right. Oh,
realistic and authentic, you know?
Mhm.
it was so realistic, and we can talk about that a little bit more when we get close to it because I know you just watched that one as well. Um, Another benefit, of course, of found footage, just something I wanted to mention before we like move on too much, is that they're just so successful. It's like for whatever reason, they are so wildly successful, and it's probably because it's got that, like you said earlier, Zoe, it's a little bit more of a realistic feeling, and it gives the viewer the
Right.
ability to actually experience the movie from their own point of view. So it's like, this is what the movie would be like if I was actually in it. And I think that's really unique, and I think that's what gives it so much character and charm. The other thing, just something to mention about found footage, is for whatever reason it usually involves either A, someone being possessed, or B, a creature, like some sort of creature feature, a monster or something like that.
Yeah.
But once in a while, like you pronounced it, Char. I don't know how to pronounce it really. What is it?
Oh, the
Keys?
Poughkeepsie?
Yeah, is that how
The
you say
Poughkeepsie
it?
tapes? I
Yes.
mean, I don't
Oh.
So
know, but I think so.
right. So as in that movie, that one had some true crime elements, just for example. So they're
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
always
And
possession or
like the
creature,
visit was
but
kind of weird.
what is it? The visit. Oh,
Well,
Oh
right, right.
man.
Yeah.
yeah.
That one was
Yeah.
intense.
There's only so many like stories you can tell with found footage, unfortunately. Like
True.
it pretty much always has to be like a possession or some kind of catastrophe or like, a haunted house.
Mhm.
But
Right.
you can put
Right.
a little twist on it if you want to.
Well, I mean, it does have to be like the kind of story that is just so unreal and so hard to believe that you would just have to catch it all on tape. Like, there's no
Exactly.
reason why you would put
Right.
it down, the camera down. Yep, yep, yep. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some of our
Let's go.
favorite found footage
I'm
films.
excited.
Yes.
Yes.
So this one is one of Zoe's favorites, Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. This is technically the first found footage horror film.
Wow.
And basically Hannibal Cannibal Holocaust from 1980 is basically lost film from a documentary crew that was found in the Amazon rainforest. And this is a movie that I refuse to do. I know it's a classic. I refuse because of the ample animal violence, real animal violence. I just can't do
Right.
it. But I acknowledge it for what it is and respect that it is very well respected. The next one, and this is kind of like what everybody considers to be the OG found footage, is Blair Witch Project from 1999.
Mm.
We love this movie, and it's not the first horror film to do found footage, but it is probably the earliest, most popular one,
Yeah, it was the
or
breakout
the
star
most
for
popular
sure.
early one. Right, exactly.
Oh
That's a good way to
yes.
describe it. It's also the highest grossing found footage film of all time, not just horror, but of all
Wow.
time. Profited over $248 million. And think of the
Cool.
budget that they had, 60K. Like crazy. That's like
Hella
absolutely
rich.
insane. That's literally like a filmmaker's dream. But the Blair Witch Project, This one's a total classic, but for whatever reason, I've noticed a lot of people haven't seen this one. It follows three film students who investigate an area said to be haunted by a notorious murderer. I like this one because I would say that this is, in my opinion, and you can let me know what you think, Shar, because I know that this is one of your favorite genres, but I would say this is definitely folk horror, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, them being outside, kind of finding, and I forgot what the actual term for it is because it's not just a rock pile, but those rock piles in the woods and like the
Yeah,
stories of
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I
witches,
know what
all
you
of
mean.
that.
Hmm.
It's very
Right.
spooky. Oh, cairns. Cairns?
Cairns, yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
rock cairns or whatever.
spooky. And then everyone they talk to is like,
Yes,
oh yeah, the witch in the woods. Yeah, it very much gives like a, and I just consider really anything that has to do with like woods, outdoors, strange symbols to be kind of folk story. But
for sure. And there's a lot of like cultural, like local folklore kind of stuff involved. So it's
yeah,
like, oh, yeah, gotta be, right? I
yes.
love this movie. I think that this is such a masterpiece, a work of art. Honestly, I really, really love this movie and I cannot say enough good things about it. One of my favorite things about this movie is the more you watch it, the more details you pick up from each time you watch it. And actually, you might feel inclined when you're watching it. There's certain parts where they're interviewing like the townsfolk, and you might be
Hmm.
inclined to just kind of zone out on those parts because they really do just kind of ramble. But the crazy thing is if you really tune into what the people are saying, it all ties in throughout the movie. It is just so well done. It's got all of those really great little tiny details that add up together to just create a masterpiece, in my opinion. I know you've seen this one too, Zoe. What do you think?
Me personally, I feel like this uh, found footage film, in my opinion, I have to add like the marketing campaign. I mean, it had us all confused, I'm sure, especially myself. I mean, with the fake posters, police reports. I mean, it really made me believe that we were about to like, witness something
That's
real.
true. I
And I feel
forgot
like
about all that.
it sparked such a frenzy. I mean, it didn't they play it at the Sundance Music Festival? That's kind of where it
Maybe so. That's
Um,
cool.
originated.
they played it at like a Florida film festival that they had, but they
Mm.
did like a ton of marketing for this movie, which is another reason why
Right.
it blew
Oh
up a lot.
man.
But
I
like really
forgot they
good
did
guerrilla
though.
style marketing.
Yes, yes, it was that hyper
Oh
realistic kind of stuff. I totally forgot that that was a thing.
They
yes.
had
That
like
is
the
so
website.
cool.
They went above and beyond. I mean, it was just a fantastic movie. I mean, if anyone else has not seen it, highly recommend.
This is a classic you should not pass up for sure.
No, honestly, like it's just so real and intense. And we have to like also keep in mind that what Shar said earlier is that a lot of the cast didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Like,
Right, that's
I guess that's
crazy.
just where method acting comes into play. I mean, they also like starved them a little bit because they feel like it would heighten the intensity, which I'm
Really.
probably sure it
Oh,
did
I'm sure
because
their feelings were
if
high.
I'm hungry, we're not having a good day.
Hell no.
At all. And
Yeah.
personally, my favorite part was a lot of those interviews that they did with people in the Burkittsville town, and apparently that was all real. Like
Yes.
some people were actors, some of them were actual
Wow.
locals,
Wait,
and
what do you
of course,
mean?
when
There
they
are
filmed those scenes.
right, is there like an actual
Mm.
this is so embarrassing. Is it based on like an actual murderer that was there?
No, no, I don't think that part is just a made up story. But everything, Burkittsville is a real town that they did do some of their filming in, which is very
Oh,
cool.
so like the stuff that didn't have to do with the murder you're talking about was like real interviews.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them were just like people that lived there in the town. Some
Right,
of them were
right.
like actors. Yeah, yeah.
Got it. I see what you're saying. That's cool. Very
Something that
cool.
I learned about it today, I watched like a few clips. The director actually he dedicated this movie to his sister because she went to Blair High School,
Oh.
and I think that's kind of where he got the idea. Me personally, I'm like, "Oh, I mean, this is a great film, but paying this in respects of your
Oh
sister,
shit, yeah,
it's
you're right.
like,
Oh.
ooh,
I don't know how I'd feel. I'd
okay."
be
Kind of
either like super
crazy.
flattered or like, what the fuck, do you hate me?
I'm weak. I'm weak.
Yeah. I want to go back
Oh
a
Yeah.
my
little bit to that
gosh.
like marketing. I think that that
Yeah.
is it's crazy if you think about it now, there are many horror films that have followed suit in a way. And
Mhm.
it's kind of crazy to think about it all coming back to the Blair Witch Project. But what was the movie? Do y'all remember there was a movie and the way they advertised it was they went on like chat roulette or what was it like Omegle and they
Hmm.
had like the girl on the camera and then she would just like
See.
freak out. What movie was that? Do you remember that? But the girl would go on chat roulette and she would like make this crazy ass face like she'd be possessed or something. And then the movie, like it
Ooh.
would just like some shit for the movie, some promo for the movie would pop up and it would freak people out so bad because they weren't expecting it at all.
Oh
Was it
man.
like the last exorcism or
Was it?
Mm,
Let me see.
I
I'm gonna
don't.
find it out. I don't
Yeah,
even
I
know if
think
it
we're all
was
trying to find it right now.
right. Let me see.
Hey listeners, now it's time for a trivia question. And we have to add it is a spoiler. In the Blair Witch Project, Heather screams after finding what wrapped up in a piece of Josh's shirt? A. Three of his fingers. B. His teeth and tongue. Or C. His eyeballs. Stay tuned to hear the answer. Dude, I'm like really, really digging, and I totally forgot, they have a website that was like created to like trick people into thinking this was an actual missing persons on the Blair Witch. They have a website,
Oh
a
my
whole
yes.
website.
gosh, that is
They
Yeah.
were
so cool.
committed.
So cool.
Yeah,
I
there were
love
like no
it.
websites out back then either. Like movies were not really like I think the internet was just like blowing up when this movie came out. So it was a
God,
huge
that's
deal to have a
incredible.
website and then have all like the interviews and the people being like missing students. Also, they
You
used
know
their real
what?
names. I didn't know that.
Yes, that's so
Go.
cool and actually kind of like scary, but super
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, I think Heather Donahue said she couldn't like find any work after doing this movie, so that kind of sucks
Oh
maybe.
yes, I read
Oh,
about that.
Yeah.
So
wow.
now she grows pot.
Oh my God, good for
What a
her.
vibe! Icon!
Yes, that's amazing.
Icon.
Yeah, I imagine that probably like a good 5K 5 to 10K went into like the actual equipment and stuff like that, maybe paying people for interviews. And probably the other
Mhm.
50K just went straight into promo and money well spent
Go.
because what an incredible
Money
movie.
well spent.
Yes, hell yeah. I love Blair Witch Project. Oh, and I promised Thorn, I'm so sorry. I
Mhm.
promised Thorn I would mention this. The fucking Blair thumb when we were kids. I can't believe I'm saying this, but he made me say it. When we were kids, before I even saw the Blair Witch Project, we had this
Uh-huh.
movie. It was a DVD that we found in like a bargain bin called The Blair Thumb, and it was literally the Blair Witch Project, but it was
But like a parody.
all yes, it was all the actors were thumbs. Like it was
What?
literally just like you know what? Look, somebody's got to find
They
that to
Cracked
make
had too
sure it
much
wasn't
down.
a
time.
fever
They
dream.
had too much time on
It
their
was fucking
hands.
insane. And if you look at the back of the DVD case, they had like remade a bunch of
No.
other movies. Like I'm gonna have to find it.
Wait,
Thumb horror
I
is
gotta.
something else.
Oh my god,
Oh my
so
gosh, Char,
stupid.
like, tell us about your favorite found footage film.
Hell
My
yeah.
favorite?
Uh huh.
I would probably. I mean, I also like just watched it again, but I would probably say
Hmm.
Cloverfield. I would say the Blair Witch Project is probably the
Nice.
most well done found footage because it really checks off all the
Hmm.
boxes you'd be concerned about, except maybe
Oh
I don't get
yeah.
motion sickness, so I don't mind a shaky camera. But I know a lot of people that don't like found
Mm.
footage. That's like the big thing they don't like. It's
People got
because it's too
so
shaky.
sick during Cloverfield because of the
I can imagine
motion like
that.
yeah.
I don't know. To me, I'm just like it just seems fun. But I like Cloverfield because I just remember thinking like, oh, this is like a cute little fun story. This little couple's hanging out at a party, then everything just starts going to shit, and
Oh.
it just never gets better. And
Right.
the cast just
It
gets
only
picked
goes
off one
down.
by one, and it's all good. It's just and it also takes place in New York, which I love. I thought it was really cool to kind of
Yeah.
see the city in the dark, see what they would do during this big disaster.
Yeah, or
Um,
at least imagine, like
yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
think that's pretty sick.
and I guess I don't know if I would call it my favorite, but one that kinda, like, was a big deal for me was
Hmm.
Quarantine. That was a movie I was super terrified of.
Such a
You
good one.
It
mentioned it
is.
earlier in the podcast how you were when it like came out and you were younger, you were so scared to watch it.
Yes, yes, I was absolutely terrified, couldn't even get through seeing all the, like, zombified people, but I watched it again recently and Quarantine too, and I would say, like, it's a fun experience to, like, go through the movie and, like, that whole, like, first person perspective and everything happening and being kind of a rush,
Yeah.
but once you get past all that adrenaline stuff, the actual, like, dialogue and the camera work was very much like
Oh.
just not good. Especially quarantine too. They could have just kept all of that. That was not good at all. But it was still
Shit.
fun to watch. You know, a movie doesn't
Yeah.
have to be. like good to be watchable. It was
That
watchable,
is
you know?
Right.
100%
So
where I'm
true.
at on it right now, is like, I'm gonna fuck it. I'm gonna allow myself to enjoy a shitty movie.
Yeah, I'll
Yes, for
find something to
sure.
like, you know? That's a good way
Right.
Dude,
to
I
kill an
love
hour.
watching, like, the corny I don't know, it just hits, like, a soft spot in my like, it's like a
Absolutely.
comforting thing.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
It's like a little joke while you're
Definitely.
watching something super scary, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it for sure. We have to talk about Paranormal Activity
I was just thinking that.
2007.
I was just thinking
Me and
that.
Shar just rewatched this
We tore through those
a few
movies.
months ago. We watched like all of them except for the ones that were like really, really like fringe. Like we didn't really get into
Mhm.
the lesser
Like the
known ones,
whole
but
franchise, yeah.
we watched the regular timeline. Like what was it, one through
Like the
like
main four, I
four or
think. Yeah,
something?
the first
Yes, yeah,
four.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow, y'all watch 1 through 4, like, back to back?
We did,
Yeah, pretty
and
Whoa.
I actually really enjoyed it this time.
Yes, they're
Yes.
really
They
good.
are good. The first time I watched it, okay, this is so funny, but when it came out, I think I was like, wait, 2007. Oh my god, please don't make me math right now. Oh, I was 12 when it came out. And I was like, whatever. Like when I was at that age, I was always like the brave friend or whatever. But truly, I was just really scared. I was just the
Believable.
one that didn't show it. You know what I mean? But I went with one of my friends to go watch it, and it was kind of like dumb, or I convinced myself it was dumb while we were watching it. And then on the way home in her mom's car, I was literally shaking and I could not
Oh
look out the window or I would freak out. So we
No,
literally, yeah, I was traumatized when I watched it.
it's definitely, like I was thinking about rewatching it, but I was like, "Man, it's such a, like, supernatural roller coaster." Like,
Yeah.
I cannot remember how many times I jumped as a child during this
Yes.
movie. I mean, me and my
yes.
sisters, like, we just sat down on the couch and we watched it, and they had, like, the big old speakers,
Oh my
and
gosh.
at the end of it all, like, we just ended up sleeping in, like, my older sister's bed together, and we
Oh,
were just terrified.
dude,
So
that is just so
cute.
sweet. It's like such a nostalgic feeling, like just being with your friends and
Uh-huh.
like just like cowering in their one room. I love it. Yeah. And then it would be like one person would always try to go off by themselves and then you just end up all back together by the end of the night. But yeah, I love those movies. I think they're so like nostalgic in a good way. That movie's basically about Micah and Katie, a couple who are terrorized by a demon which wants to take control of
Mm.
Katie's body. And the footage from the cameras, it's like it's kind of a mix between the surveillance and the first person because Micah, like the filler material in between like the demon attacks basically is Micah
Mhm.
filming, and then the actual like attacks and stuff like that is taken from surveillance footage basically. And so I think that it's a really interesting combination and it keeps it pretty interesting. I like
Yeah.
those movies. And I like how all the movies like 1 through 4 actually they all tie in together pretty well in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
yeah,
another
for
movie that
sure.
makes sense. You know, there's a reason why they're
Right.
filming. There's a reason why it's this family, and they kind of
Yeah.
keep the story really well going. Really well going. The
Right.
story it just makes sense, like you said, as it goes through each movie.
My
I feel
favorite
like.
one I think, sorry.
Oh, so I was gonna say that I feel like, for example, with Quarantine, the second movie was just like a very, very, very loose spin-off from the first one. Didn't really make sense, and I haven't watched the rest of the Cloverfield series yet, but I'm curious about
Right.
how.
Oh, wait, is there more?
So apparently, 10 Cloverfield Lane and the Cloverfield Paradox are all part of the same world as the first Cloverfield movie. So it's like a
Oh,
whole
I knew it was the
universe.
same director, but I didn't know if it was.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Hmm.
Apparently, they are
Huh.
all interconnected.
Oh yeah, that's random. Yeah, whenever the director probably watched Funny Games and then was like, "All right, we have to make 10 Cloverfield Lane." It's basically, well, anyway. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, my favorite one was actually the second one. I'd have to say the second Paranormal Activity.
Ooh.
I felt
Really?
like that one was like, yeah, I don't know why. I think it was just like it kind of just really tied the first movie together like really well. It picked up any like loose ends. I thought that the like
Mhm.
hauntings or whatever were like a little bit cooler. Like they were a little bit more dynamic. There was a little bit more stuff affected. Whereas like in the first one, it was a lot of just like boom and and like, you know, shit like that. It wasn't a lot of stuff happening. It was more so just like a bunch of like loud noises. But I did really like it. Actually, this kind of surprised me, but the third one, I'm pretty sure it's the third one where they're like kids in the 80s, right?
Yes.
So that one actually, believe it or not, was like the highest grossing out of all the Paranormal Activity films.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, and
That's
I thought that was the
crazy.
worst one.
I was gonna say, yeah, I didn't like that one. Like, that was the most boring to
I
me.
thought so too, but I think the hype at that point had just been so built up that that's why there were so many people there.
That's true. It had become like an entire universe with like multiple endings and sequels and spin-offs. So
Yeah,
I
so
can
many
see people
spinoffs.
getting really, really hyped up at that point. But I liked just the
I have to
first one.
say,
So
Mhm.
I have to say, I really do like the fourth one.
The fourth one is good in my
The
opinion.
fourth one is very, very good. Like it's like I said, going back to modernized things, like it's very modern, but they're being very subtle about it.
Right, I agree.
It's
That's
not
where I'm
like
at on it
in your
too.
face.
Absolutely. It's like a little bit more of like contemporary technology is involved, but
yeah,
it's
they're like
not
on
in a way
Skype or
that's like,
something.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But it's not in a way that's like, haha, we're like cool. Look at this. This is like new technology or whatever. It wasn't like awkward or cringe. I will say it was a
Wait.
little bit predictable. I don't want to like say too much, but I like saw the ending coming from a mile away, but I will say that I still
Oh.
enjoyed it.
What was that movie we watched, Crow,
Oh my
where
god.
all the friends were
Unfriended.
online? Oh
Oh my
man.
god. I thought about watching that for this one, but I couldn't
Oh.
do it,
Please.
girl. I couldn't do
That one was
it. I
tough.
Okay, you know what?
can't.
I'm about to spoil this movie up and down. I don't give a
I'm never
shit.
gonna watch it.
We need to fucking talk about Unfriended from 2014. Basically, okay, so basically what's happening in the movie is like I will say it's very unique the perspective. It was like one of the first movies to do it to where the entire movie was filmed from like it was basically just showing the girl's desktop. Like it didn't show anything else other than like everybody's webcams. I thought that was cool, actually. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a shtick, but it is cool. So basically, what happened is there was one fucking girl that was like kind of part of the friend group, but they were like frenemies that got so drunk
Hmm.
and shit herself at a
She
party.
shit her
She shit her
pants.
fucking pants. And they got a
Stop!
video of her poopy draws and they uploaded it on YouTube and she came back and killed them all because of it.
Wow.
I was like, who
Mood
the fuck?
Yes.
though.
There were
Oh,
so many ways they could have gone about that. Like they could have at least shown her pissing herself or at least just shown her like she ended up like naked or something, but she
right.
shit herself.
That
She
is
had a
Yeah.
fucking
crazy.
viient shit on her upon herself. Dude, I was
Oh
shook.
my
When
god.
me and Zoe saw it, we were like fucking dead, dude.
Disgusting.
Anyway, I mean, it
Oh.
wasn't a great movie. It was entertaining for sure. I mean, I'm not going to say
It
not
was
to watch
very
it. It was
entertaining.
entertaining, but it was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Oh my god,
Oh
absolutely
god.
insane. And I think that
Yeah.
kind of like kicked off a bunch of like found footage movies based around social media and like being on the internet.
Uh-huh.
Basically
Right.
the new generation of found footage, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
But they're just unfortunately just not I don't think we've had a good found footage movie in a couple of years now, but
Yeah, in a
No.
while, I agree.
Yeah, it's kind well, I think it just honestly, I think the whole thing is that it just kind of went out of style.
yeah. And I
Mm.
just don't want to sound like a hater on this pod.
No.
I'm not definitely not hating at all, and I do like the genre. I think it's fun when it's well done. It's really really good. It's just so easy to
Mhm.
not do it good. Like you
Very easy
said,
to fuck it up.
we could get
Absolutely.
like a bunch of money together and like put out a found footage movie that may or may not actually be good. Hopefully, be good because it's
That's
us.
what
But
I love. Yeah, why don't we? Let's do it right now.
secretly, I have always wanted to do that. Actually, that's my.
Yes, me
I would love to
too.
film a found footage like in our hometown or here or just us fucking around somewhere in an abandoned mall or something and just go crazy, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
that
I
sounds
truly feel
great.
like, in my opinion, have you guys ever seen that movie The Forest in 2016?
I haven't, no.
It's about
hmm.
the suicide forest in
Oh,
Japan,
wow. Yeah, yeah, I've heard of it.
right?
I've heard of
And
it.
the way it's filmed, it's not a found footage, but if you guys ever get the chance and you can like see it for yourself, it's not filmed by found footage, but I feel like in my personal opinion, it would have
Yeah,
done so much more better if it was in the found footage
I
realm.
agree. That's like one of
Ooh,
those things that would
Mhm.
have like meshed well with the genre.
Right.
nice. Yeah.
Definitely. Same year as Paranormal Activity, we also had REC. That one's
Ooh.
a Spanish movie, I'm pretty sure. But
Yes.
basically that is the original version of Quarantine. Quarantine came out a
Yes.
year later. It's just like the
Mhm.
American translation, basically. But it's basically about a zombie outbreak that occurs within the confinement of an apartment complex that basically just gets cut off from the outside world. Like cops aren't letting them leave because they're trying to quarantine them because of the zombie outbreak that's happening within the apartment complex. So I like any movie that has a unique kind of confined setting. So, just for example, like Train to Busan, the entire movie essentially is filmed on the train. I like stuff like
Mhm.
that. I think it's really cool to see what you can do with a limited amount of space.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean,
And
we
it's,
already talked about,
to be fair, the set for this one
yeah,
actually it was a functional apartment with four
yeah.
floors. You know,
Okay,
so
that's
that's
cool.
cute.
Yeah,
They put a little effort
Right.
in.
yeah.
That is cute.
It's just, I mean, I think that the concept is pretty cool. Actually, okay, when I watched this when it came out, or not, it wasn't when it came out because I would have been a little bit younger, but actually no, I think I did see it around when it came out. I really liked this movie as a kid. Like I really thought this movie was so cool. And then watching it again, I was like, oh, I mean, it was okay, but it
No.
was like it was a lot. And I will also say that the main girl in the movie is screaming the entire time. And I get it, like I would be screaming too if it was real,
Yes.
but I was like, this is fucking it. Like I almost had to turn the movie off because it was piercing my fucking
Man.
brain.
Yeah, that is a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah, it was
There's a
rough.
lot of
It was just too
screaming.
much. Well, there's other ways to like depict you being terrified other than screaming, but
Yes.
like,
If anything, I probably
it
go
wasn't
like
bad.
very, very silent in these situations. Like when I get really scared, I just clam up.
Yes.
If I'm
Yeah,
screaming,
I
all
oh my
hell is
god.
broken loose.
Hell yeah. We talked about those memes where it talks about like when me and my friend both got kidnapped, but I've never heard her scream like that before. And it's like
No! Yes, yes, yes.
yes, it's like her just
That will
cackling as
be
you can hear this
new.
friend screaming in the background.
Oh,
Oh my
absurd.
god.
Oh, and totally absurd.
Yeah, apparently we all discovered that I have a great
Oh my god.
horror movie
She
scream.
Really?
does. I heard it.
Oh
I
my
heard
Yes.
it.
gosh.
Authentically heard it.
Ooh, okay. I'm very jealous. I
Oh
love
my
that. I
god.
love a good blood curdling
Well,
scream.
Oh
so
man.
Zoe's easily spooked.
Yeah.
And she literally screams like if she's spooked. And this is so funny. I have to tell everybody this because it fucking makes me laugh so hard. My brother told me
Oh my
like, "Oh,
gosh.
Zoe screams for everything." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then I'm on the phone with him and he literally just goes, he goes, "Hey Zoe," like he was just trying to get your attention, and she just goes, "Ah!" Like lets out a like sustains a full scream. I was like, "Oh my god." And then he just goes, "Hey, do you know where this thing is?" Like he didn't even react, and
Oh,
then
but
that's what
he's becoming
he was
acclimated to
literally
it.
acclimated to you constantly shrieking. That
Dude.
I'm
I was
screaming.
And
laughing so hard when I heard that.
I have to mention the story about so I was walking out the door because our laundry area is outside, which
Right.
is kind of odd to me, but I'll
Well,
spruce it up a little
it
bit.
is what it is.
Um, so I opened the door, did not expect our friend, not going to say his name
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
not sure, our friend standing there at the door, open the door,
What?
don't expect it, and you just hear me like,
Yeah.
and like Thorn comes and he has the wine bottle in his hand and he's like, baby, baby, like he was about to like
Fuck
whoop
Let's
some
somebody
get
up.
ass. You
it.
know
It's
what I'm saying?
up.
And like his friend was just like, man, I'm just so glad you didn't
Yes.
grab the gun.
That's what I
Yes.
thought you were gonna say. That he grabbed the
Like
bride and was ready.
the gat. He got the gat.
Well, the funniest thing
Uh-uh.
was that he said that he even like not he knocked on the door and was just like waiting for the door to open. So you can imagine you knock and then the door opens and you're just met with screaming.
Oh my gosh.
Turn around and run
Oh my god,
Oh
that had
my
me
gosh.
cracking up. I love that. That is so. At least you know you're going to be ready anytime something happens.
On
Yes.
God,
Fully
y'all are
prepared
ready.
for
Primed
it.
and
Oh
ready.
my god, that had me crying.
Goodness.
Dude. Okay, well, we already talked about Cloverfield a little bit earlier.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Aw.
Cloverfield was the same year as Quarantine, 2008. And then, of course, mentioned a little bit about it's a group of friends that are trying to leave New York City after it's attacked by like an alien thing. I like Cloverfield, honestly. I know it's a little bit like whatever, like it's a little dated, it's a little lame now, but I think it's cute and fun. I think it's entertaining. It's definitely not like something that's gonna make you really think and be like, damn, yeah, they're
Yeah, I mean, there's
saying
not that much,
something.
going on. We don't really know the main characters beyond like they're having a party. The main
For
character
sure.
Rob's going away. His
Yeah.
girlfriend's there. There's not that much to go on. But yeah, it's still fun.
It's a solid creature feature, and I don't mind that. I think a lot of the time, I mean, it depends really, but a lot of the time, creature features don't really have some deeper meaning. I mean, a lot of them do, don't quote me on that, but some of them, I think it's okay for some of them to not.
Facts.
Is
Sometimes
that
it's just about the
Goobus?
big scary monsters.
Oh, that's cat. That's a litter box.
Okay.
Oh shoot!
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. That's
No,
I
you're
didn't
good. You're
realize you
good. You're
guys could
good.
hear that.
No, you're
Ah!
fine. I was like, that's either.
Shouts
Um,
out to Char's cat.
Yeah.
yeah, my personal creatures.
Yes, we love it. I need a cat. Last Exorcism, that was a really good one. And actually, Zezo,
So
this one
good.
was like Thorn was so freaked out by this one when we were younger. That was
Oh.
2010. It's basically about this minister who he lets a documentary crew film his last exorcism that he is going to do. And at
Mhm.
first, this movie's pretty cool. It actually looks like, is it in Louisiana?
It is. It's in
Okay.
New
No way.
Orleans.
Sick.
Yes.
So, yeah, it definitely has that like southern kind of like small town charm.
Mhm.
I think it's like on the outside of New Orleans or so, but it's not like big city or anything. They're like in the country. It's really cool. And a little close to home, so that makes it creepy too. But basically, at the beginning of this movie, he thinks it's all like a sham, and he's like, "Oh, it's all fake or whatever."
Oh
But you
yeah.
start to realize this shit's for real. And actually, the movie is pretty like scary. It's been years since I saw it, but I really enjoyed it when I did watch it.
It really is. I mean, I feel like it's definitely a blend of like found footage and psychological horror in my
Definitely,
opinion.
yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it really took a fresh approach. I mean, you have a disillusioned preacher who's, obviously questioning his faith and
Right, he's
also
kinda over it.
questioning, right, he's like, all right, we're going to get down to it. And he's trying to expose the trips,
Right,
like the
right.
tricks, sorry, behind exorcism. And I mean, god, it was just so real in my opinion. I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a major plot twist
Yes, yes,
and
for sure.
oh, it's so haunting.
Yep, absolutely. It's almost got well, I don't even wanna give anything. I feel like if I say anything, it'll just kind of, like, give it away. I recommend that one. If you like possession movies, if you like found footage, that one's, like, a really cool one. And also, if you're just,
Really
like,
good one.
interested in kind of, like, down south, like, small town shit, which I am, like, I think
Mhm.
that, it's got that vibe to it, which is really, really cool. 2011, we have Grave Encounters. This movie, okay, when I first
Ooh.
watched it, I would have been like a teenager and I thought it was trash when I first watched it. Was not a fan. I didn't enjoy it really, but I couldn't understand why it kept like this movie actually is very highly acclaimed by a lot of like horror critics, believe it or not.
Oh.
I went back and
Hmm.
watched it recently. It was fine. I will say Grave Encounters kind of did Backrooms before Backrooms was a thing. So that's pretty cool. And I think that it was a unique concept at the time. So going back and rewatching it, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And I think it is really cool. And if you're into the whole like Backrooms, like liminal spaces kind of thing, I think you're going to really enjoy this movie. It's another one of those movies where it's not a whole lot of thought going on. It's not a whole lot of like dramatic, deeper meaning, but it's solid. It's fine.
Yeah, I rewatched that one. I feel like it's definitely like an underrated horror gem in my opinion. Whenever I saw like the poster for it, I was kind of turned off a little bit
Right, right,
cuz I'm all about
exactly.
art, right? And I'm just glad I overcame like my bias to see it. I mean, if you're like me and you shy away from like certain camera style production, you
Yeah.
might be hesitant to see it, but the story and its professional way, it really carries the movie. I mean, exceptionally.
I know what you mean as far as the poster because it's almost got like an
Hmm.
X-Files thing going on, but like
Right,
it's
right,
not X-Files.
right.
Like you can't do X-Files unless you're X-Files. And it kind of had that vibe going on, but it definitely picks up. Like you have to give it a little bit of time. Give it like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then in 2012, this is one of my personal favorites, VHS. I actually really like this movie. This one's more
I
of an
love all of those.
anthology. Yes, and that's the other thing too. They have like a bunch of sequels for this one, but most of the sequels are pretty good. Basically what happens in this movie is like a group of complete fucking bottom rung assholes breaks into a man's house to steal some VHS tapes. I don't really remember why, but they had a reason for
That's where
it.
they fucked up.
Right. And each each VHS, I think they knew that they were like notorious for whatever reason and they just wanted to have them. But each VHS had like different footage of like some pretty disturbing,
Right.
horrific events, and it's just an anthology and I love anthologies. So,
Same.
yeah.
And I really like how each segment is like something different. You got some creature feature going on,
Yeah.
you got some, psycho shit going on. I mean,
Absolutely.
I really enjoy it. Some scenes are like pretty uneasing because it's very very real. Do you remember, oh, I'm not going to give it away too much, but the one scene where they're staying in the hotel in Mexico, you know where I'm getting at?
Wait. So, maybe. Sorry.
But it's such a mega plot twist. I think it's on the second one, so maybe we can like rewatch that one
Yes, I'm
together.
gonna
I
have
mean, that
to.
one was so
I
chilling.
haven't seen the second one in a long time. I just rewatched the first
Oh,
one though. I
yes, the
like
first one.
the very first scene that happens with the succubus girl. That one's
Oh, that
so
one was
good.
it was so good, but it just oh man, it felt so
I know,
real.
so creepy. It's yeah, they actually do a pretty good job of it. Like I think that
Yeah.
I would say that this is successful found footage. Like each video is
Mhm.
not like I don't know, there's not a whole bunch of like, oh, we have to do it's like videoed because you would be videoing something like that normally. Like one of them is like a guy's night out and the whole idea behind that is the guy's got a camera in his glasses and the technology doesn't really make sense, but it makes sense that it's like, oh, some sleazy guys want to get a girl naked in a hotel room and like record
Right.
it against her. What it's something that you believe would
Yeah.
happen. And then in some, it's like, oh, it's a family trip. Like you would believe that they'd already be
Mhm.
videoing that. So there's not a whole lot of like reason for having this big dramatic backstory. And I like that. Yeah. Then we have The Taking of Deborah Logan
Oh
2014.
man.
This one is
Oh.
so good. So
Oh.
good. And it doesn't look like much. This was one of those movies that I went into years ago, kind of not really expecting that much, but just watching it because it was found footage. This movie is so much better than I thought it would be. And I think one of the things that's so excruciating about it is you love Deborah Logan. You love her. Like
Right.
she's so cool. She's this older woman and she's got Alzheimer's that is slowly starting
Oh.
to take hold more and more of her mind and her body. And it's a film crew that they are basically filming her in order to bring awareness to the disease as a university
Mhm.
project. And, eventually they start to realize that she's afflicted by more than just Alzheimer's. And it's really good, really creepy. That scene, it's the scene that everybody knows, but the scene where she's like in
Where
that
she
like cave thing or what is it, like a shed or a
Ooh.
cave or whatever, but fuck, and she's got the kid. That shit is so nasty.
It's so nasty.
So nasty. But that's a really good one. I remember that one was on Netflix for like a long time, but I think now it's on
Oh
like Prime or
yeah.
whatever, Amazon Prime.
All right, we are back with the answer to the trivia question from before. If you said B, his teeth and tongue, you are correct.
We also have Creep. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. That one is really good as well. That's also another one of my favorite found footage films. And I will also say, I don't want to give too much away for this one. That ending scene for this movie is one of the most terrifying ending scenes for any movie. It's so fucking creepy. Basically what happens in this movie is there's a man who is I don't want to give anything away. I'm just going to give the most basic summary of this. A man diagnosed with cancer hires a cameraman to film his last moments for his future daughter. And the cameraman starts noticing there is some weird shit going on with the guy that he's videoing. This is such a fucking creepy movie. So creepy. I feel like it's called Creep. I feel like a lot of people talked about it for a while and then it kind of just went under the radar after a few years. I feel like not as many people talk about
Mhm.
this one as much anymore. It's a great movie. So scary, especially if you like I would say this is very psychological in my opinion. I have chills thinking about the ending. Ugh, So, so
Oh
creepy.
man,
Yeah.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, and
Right.
I'm like online, like reading
Yeah, I hear
people's
lots of good things
critiques
about
on
Don't
it
it,
spoil
too,
it
for
and
for
this
sure.
yourself.
no. Well, this guy said the only good thing I can say about this movie is that it only wasted 1 hour and 17 minutes of
Oh
my
my
life.
god. The comments are always brutal. People are always like,
Uh,
"Fuck this shit, fuck that." I'm like, sorry it wasn't like fucking Eraserhead, but
yeah.
we can enjoy other things too, sir." Oh my god.
I'm dead.
Another movie from 2014 that I wanted to mention, and actually there's a lot of movies that came out in 2014. So Taking of Deborah Logan,
Mhm.
Unfriended, Creep, all of those were in 2014, as well as Above, So Below.
Ooh, I
Just
love
chill
that
This is a
one.
pretty
out.
good one. So it's basically about a crew of spelunkers that they explore the catacombs below the streets of Paris. And actually, A, that's one of my biggest fears ever. But B, it's like huge bucket list thing. Like we
Yeah.
have to go to the catacombs.
Oh yes.
Absolutely. This movie is so fucking claustrophobic. Oh my gosh. So it makes you feel like you're
Mhm.
holding your breath the entire time. Like it's
Yes.
so creepy, but
Yeah,
it
I think
is
that
a
would be
good
pretty
one.
sick to do.
Great visuals. Great visuals. Well, did they actually film it? They had to have actually filmed it down in the catacombs, right? Do you know?
Yeah, they did shoot it in the real catacombs. They got permission from like the French police and everything to do it, which is pretty cool. I did think that the cast was pretty dumb, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they kind of
Yes.
have to be to an
Well,
extent.
yeah. If they weren't dumb, they probably wouldn't have got themselves in that position in the first
Yeah, I
place.
personally think like the plot of the movie is like very well laid out
Yeah.
because it kind of keeps you interested the whole time just
Right, for
as
sure.
you like get reeled in, and it's like the jump scares that come about, it's not one of those like cheesy jump scares. It's actually pretty fucking
Yeah,
terrifying.
it is totally scary. Absolutely. And then it's also like they have that story that was going around. I can't remember his name. I'm going to feel so bad, but it's about the guy. He
Mm.
did the cave. He would do like the cave stuff. Like he would always go through those like tight cave spaces. Oh
Oh,
god,
Oh
did you know about
yes,
that
I've
no, that's
seen
such
story?
a scary
those.
Yes,
thing
and then
to
it was the kind
do.
of thing where
Cool.
he thought
Yes.
that it would like I think he thought that it would open up on the other end, so he just kept going deeper
Oh
and deeper.
man.
Oh, you're talking about the
And
person that died?
yes, and he
Yeah.
like eventually at one point, oh my god, this is like making me so scared to even say out loud, but had to let all the air out of his lungs to like be able to fit. I was like, "Oh my god."
Whew.
And he was so deep in
Dedication.
that crack that they knew he was there. They couldn't even get him out. Like they literally could not get him out without I think like damaging him or like I don't remember what it was. Like they just couldn't reach him or something. That's a true nightmare. This is like the movie version basically of that. I mean, different scenario, but same like terrifying fear of claustrophobia, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
Man,
like a
I'm very
different
claustrophobic.
Me too, for sure.
I think
It's
I don't know how claustrophobic I am. I get uncomfortable going in those like Egyptian parts of museums because they always have the fake like tombs. That makes me nervous. But
yeah.
Oh.
yeah, I think people that do that cave, like I forgot what it's called, but getting in those tiny
I'm not
spaces,
sure.
that's like a different level of adrenaline hunting for real. Like
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
that's a death wish,
Hey,
low key.
Oh god, what
the
a
only
horrible
way
way to
out
go.
is down.
Yeah, right. You have to go
That's
through the
awful.
fucking earth. No. Okay. I have to mention this one. I'm not going to get too much into it. 2015 Hell
What?
House LLC. Y'all know how I feel about that movie. A group of
Tell
friends
us.
basically renovate a foreclosed building and they're trying to create like the scariest haunted house attraction in America. I don't like this movie. Okay, we can move on. I'm so
Well, why do you
sorry,
not like
guys.
the movie? What's up with it?
Yeah, tell us.
I don't know. I just thought that it was like I really am gonna feel bad about this because what if like the director listens to this? I mean, he probably won't, but
Look, sometimes people know their
um,
work, you know, not it's not gonna hit for everybody.
yeah, I didn't like any of the characters, and I think that you're supposed to. I didn't think it was the point where you were supposed to kind of like not like them. I thought they were all lame. I thought they were all corny. I thought none of them were relatable in any
Mm,
way. I thought that a lot of the ideas behind what happened in the movie had already been done before. That's just kind of how I
They
feel
probably
about it.
had
I
by
just have to be
2015.
honest. Right. I just have to be honest. I really just wasn't crazy about it. And I like horror movie films and I like horror movie or sorry, of course I do. I like haunted house films and I like haunted house like found footage. If I recall, Houses That October Built was found footage as well, I think, and
mhm.
I really liked that movie. I thought it was a good like I thought it was done well. Um I just wasn't crazy about Hell House. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like it. It makes it to a lot of the like top 20 horror movie lists and stuff like that. It just wasn't for me, unfortunately. We have The Visit 2015. We
Oh
watched me
man.
wait,
Yes.
who watched this? It was me and Charlotte and Kai, I think. This movie's so good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was M. Night Shyamalan.
I know, right? I didn't either, but apparently he like needed something. Like he really went all out to get money to actually put this together and then like really had
Really?
a difficult time choosing if he wanted it to be more of like a thriller or a comedy or whatever.
Right.
So it
Oh,
was kind
well,
of
it was
like
definitely a little bit of a comedy on certain parts, but
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. I think it was something just different for him.
this movie is horrifying. It is so I mean, I'm going to say horrifying in the way of like disgusting. And I will say
Yes.
M. Night Shyamalan is known for his twists. He's known for the plot twists,
Mhm.
and this one is no disappointment. There is a huge plot twist that definitely, I mean, it took me by surprise. And honestly, the crazy thing is they
Yeah.
set it up so well, like to where it's like, oh, it should
They
have been
did.
obvious, what the plot twist
Right.
was, but it wasn't until it happened. I know there's some people going to be listening that are going to be like, oh, I saw it coming, but like, no, it really was pretty shocking. So basically, what that movie is about, it's two children that go to visit their grandparents for the first time, and they never met them before because their mom basically was estranged from them. The mom had like a falling out with them, and the grandparents start acting
Mhm.
really weird. And the kids are catching it on camera because I don't remember why the daughter like wants to become a filmmaker or something like that.
Yeah,
That
she wanted
movie's
to like
fucking
record their first
insane.
visit. It was,
Yeah.
and you probably already know what scene I'm thinking
Yes,
of,
of
but one
course.
scene was real nasty,
I please,
trifling.
please,
Oh my god, that was
please.
the
The way
real jump scare for
uh
me.
the way my body
Yes.
took a fucking screenshot was so
Oh.
crazy. We all were like, no, there's no way. They wouldn't do that. There's no
I
way.
was
And they
like,
fucking did.
Man, I was sick to my fucking stomach, bro. I'm sick talking about this.
When you watch the movie, you're going to know exactly what we're talking about. You will know
yeah.
exactly what we're talking
Yes.
about. I just want to say my favorite parts in the movie were whenever they're like under the house like playing hide and seek and the fucking grandma's like chasing
Yes,
after them. And then
yes.
but it's not
That
even
was
that.
fucked
That's like
up.
so funny, but my favorite part is when she gets up and she walks away and her fucking skirt is like tucked in her underwear. It
Nuh-uh.
just seems so
Girl,
unnecessary to do that.
just
It was so funny.
strange.
And then the part
Just
where
strange.
they hear the sounds outside the door and they open the door and she's like scratching at the door. That part is so fucking. It's like funny, but it's like creepy. I have to mention this movie. It's not necessarily found footage. I mean, it's really not at all, I would say, but I have to mention Sinister. I love this movie from
Oh,
2012.
yes.
The reason I want to mention it is because it's about a true crime author who comes across tapes depicting brutal acts of murder seemingly inspired by a supernatural force. And so it's not a found footage movie in itself, but he finds footage that leads to a bunch of other fucked up shit. This movie is so scary, actually, in my
Yes.
opinion. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. If you've seen it, you know about the lawnmower scene. Enough said.
Oh,
Yeah, that shit is
no.
so creepy. I love this movie and I love Ethan Hawke.
Oh, same.
Yep, yep,
Same.
yeah.
I can definitely say I don't get scared very easily when it comes to horror movies, but I would definitely say Sinister scared the shit out of me. I mean, the
Yes.
music and the videos are
Oh
absolutely chilling, and
god.
I really like how, like, in the opening, you had no idea what was happening as you're faced with a family, like, slowly being hung from a tree.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
just.
you really it's like what the fuck is going on? Like who's
And it
behind
wasn't
all
too
this?
fast paced either, which I really liked.
Yeah, I would agree too. It definitely takes its time with it and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty well done. I would say that even this is the type of movie that even for people that are pretty snobby about
Mm-hmm.
about found footage, I mean, not that it's really traditional found footage, but I think that this is something that you might even like to I would say give it a chance. It came out in 2012. It's not super old, but it's just old enough to have that like we were in high school at the time charm kind of thing. So,
He's,
I like this movie. Definitely
dude, like,
recommend.
I mean, he plans on writing this new book, and unknowingly, he is being stalked and watched by something. Can I mind you? That looks like a WWE figure.
Please,
I mean, if
that's
you
it's the
really,
Undertaker.
that's the Undertaker straight up. You
It's the
cannot tell
fucking
me any different.
Undertaker.
I'm
Yeah.
screaming.
Shit. Oh my god, so true. You're so right. It's literally Babadook meets the Undertaker. Like, actually, but it also, like, kinda reminds me of the guy from Malignant, to be honest.
Oh, you're right.
A little bit. They've got that same vibe. That same, like, creepypasta vibe.
Real.
Anyway, is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we start wrapping up?
I guess I should also just like briefly touch on the well, we didn't talk about it very much, but the Poughkeepsie tapes, that was super scary and creepy.
Mhm.
I feel like I was only kind of half watching, so I wasn't personally terrified, but the concept and what was
Right.
happening was very disturbing. It's basically like a live, like follow along with a serial killer, and it's just a lot of torture, a lot of like really fucked up horrors, and then, just gave me chills. It's a very unsettling movie, but I thought it was really well done. That was an interesting idea, and yeah, you should. I think people should see it. I feel like it's not very well known. I don't hear about it very
It
often,
isn't. It
so
really isn't.
I think
No,
it's worth checking out.
surprisingly.
Yeah.
The Mask is so creepy.
It's from like the killer's point of view?
Yeah, the police like find this guy's house and he
Oh.
has like a bunch of tapes of basically from the beginning to end of him kidnapping people and killing them and then
Wow.
dismembering them and all the other horrible things he does to their bodies, and he like filmed the entire thing. So the whole movie is just them trying to figure out who this guy is and then also showing scenes from his tapes, and they are gruesome. It's very sad.
Right.
And the guy's
Wow.
such a piece of shit. Like he just sounds like the kind of guy that would be a
Yeah,
serial
Fuck
killer.
he's
that loser.
He just sounds like a sketchy character. Man.
I do want to just mention so this movie is very loosely based on a true story. I just want to
Okay.
mention, just out of respect for the people involved, that
Mhm.
it is extremely loosely based. It's not, a lot of people seem to be under the impression that it is a lot more like accurate and true to history. But it's not. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention that. But it is loosely based on it. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there were like 8 women that were murdered in Poughkeepsie way
yeah,
back then, so
pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us talk about what is admittedly one of my favorite genres of horror. I know that it's very polarizing, but I'm a fan and I'm happy that you guys were able to hear us out. Let us know what your favorite found footage movie is. And if you don't like found footage, tell us why. I'd like to hear your opinions, whether you agree with me or not. I like to hear opinions from all points of view. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember to always check your closet for a camcorder.
yes, yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Is there a story, film, or topic you want us to discuss in an upcoming episode? Email your suggestions to terrortakeoverpod@gmail.com. Intro music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.